Yay, it's live. It should be.
It is live. We are
Yay.
here and we are live, and it is Friday, May 7th, and this is the Motherhood. Now, yes, thank you so much, Mother LaJoy. Um,
Welcome.
so, what we are going to do, this is a rare moment where all four of the core hosts are wearing lipstick today. All four of us are actually giving lip. Yes. Sharita, you always giving us some lip, but it's hit or miss with the four. But to get all four of us in lipstick at one time is quite the thing here. So,
Wow.
And we all have a pop
yay to a little pop of color tonight. All right, and so what we're gonna do is, as we always do, we start our broadcast by going onto our own. Going into Facebook and going to the Citizen the Citizen Ed Facebook page, and pushing it onto your page and start a watch party. So let's take a minute and we shall tag some friends, get some people to watch on. We need some questions. We want some dialogue. And we want to have a good time tonight. It's Friday. I just talked to Chioma about the fact that the weather is warming up, and it is a bit competitive when you think about, and it was Cinco de Mayo this week, right? So, it's probably still Cinco de Mayo a lot of places on a Friday night. So it's hard to compete, but we know folks will watch. And so let's just get it out and let's share it with some folks. All right. So I'm almost there with mine. What about you guys?
I just pushed it out.
Yay.
I tagged some folks. I tagged Brittany.
Tag Brittany. We need Brittany as per usual.
We need Brittany. We gotta get her in the StreamYard room soon. Brittany is powerful.
Oh, yes. Definitely got to
We
get
need Renee.
Oh, Renee. We gotta get Renee in here.
I already tagged Renee.
Look at you guys. It's just tag. All right, friends. We got our friends out there. And bring your margarita on in or throw it out onto your phone so that you can watch along and dialogue with us. All right. So Friday night, and we are here. We have our I got my watch party going here. I'm terrible at doing more than one thing at one time.
You got it, Mama. You got it.
All right. Oh yeah, Anna Cook. Come on in, Anna Cook. All right. My person here, we mom in real time. My person here is attempting to be a display component tonight. Anyway, so we're here, and one of the things that last year when I was thinking about this, and I talked to LaJoy, and I said, hey, I want to, I just would love to have a conversation with moms in the special education community. And, I'm thinking that we could use, some type of means by which we can converse and talk together and support one another in a way whereby we will understand one another in a very unique way. So next thing you know, she's got me on the phone with Chioma and Yolanda, and the four of us are talking, and we playing one Zoom, and one Zoom turns into I don't know, what has it been, a year's worth at this point, right?
Wow.
At the end of 2020, we were at 7. So one of the things that I shared with everyone at the time was, and I have failed myself because I intended to invite my friend Dr. Nicole Corley out of VCU, who is social work professor, who at the first time I said, I want to tell you about some ideas I had. And she said, it's a Motherwork. And I knew that meant something, so I looked it up. And so she told me in the Patricia Hill Collins context, but of course I looked it up. And so, she penned in my mind a lot about what it means for Motherwork. And this is the piece from Collins' work that really stood out to me, which was motherhood occurs in specific historical context, framed by interlocking structures of race, class, and gender, context where the sons of white mothers have every opportunity and protection, and the colored daughters and sons of racial ethnic mothers know not their fate. And what I thought about, a couple of notes I made when I wrote that, there was like intersection, standing in the gap, modifications in discourse, and the needs of one family, one's own family intersects with the needs of others, right? And so when you study motherwork in this context, you find that generations of Black and brown women pre this continent, I'm sure, right, have been operating in the theory that the needs of one own family intersects with the needs of others. We've been doing collective mother work since the beginning of time. And so one of the things I found, most interesting over the course of this year, that we've been together, it's almost a year, that we've been together talking as a quorum, talking as a collective, talking as a widely expanded group, and hearing so many stories. What I came to realize was that there was true power in the collective, and that particular the particular
Together in real
collective.
time.
It's unbelievable today. That is that there was true power, and I could see and witness that in our one little circle, in our one little unique niche, and that being parents of children with specifically, neurodiverse and other disabilities, that we understood one another in a unique way, as if we spoke a specific language that only people in our tribe, right? Because now we're a tribe, squad up, people in our very specific community can really understand, right? And so over the course of that time, I've seen support, I've seen friendship, I've seen bonds, I've seen business deals, economic sharing. I've seen so many things over that time. And what I've come to realize is that there really is true power in the collective, that the premise of We the Motherhood under Collins's theory of motherwork, and the fact that as a motherhood, we come together and converge and create one powerful collective and a unified voice, that I've realized that, the general theory that it was true is true, right? And so as I was talking to our guest here today, Sharita Watkins, who's a licensed counselor down in Richmond, Virginia area, and we talked a lot about her support of families in the community, predominantly Black and brown, where there are occasions where there's a lot of mothers coming in the door, right, and that there's a powerful need for mothers to be supported in that theory of a motherhood network. And so I kind of passed that back, and so we talked a little bit about it, and sort of how she sees the power of motherwork, but especially in the disability community, being able to insert that one piece of support and specific and unique understanding that would really allow a family to truly expand and spread their wings and have the things they need to really navigate what it's like to be a parent of a student with a disability. So with that said, I'd like to initially engage and pass the mic to our friend Sharita Watkins, who has joined us. We were just together about 2 weeks ago. And so it is so good to see you again, my sister. Anything you'd like to share as we begin?
No, I just think this is a great idea. Like I was sharing with you, I have had to accompany parents to meetings, IEP hearings. And one thing that I found was interesting in this particular case was the mom also had some mental health issues. So she felt intimidated around, I'm not sure if you know, in Virginia, so we have they may have the teacher, the school counselor, the principal, the parent, and maybe the special education coordinator. I may be missing a person or two in that meeting, but if you're a parent and you already suffer from some kind of mental illness, anxiety, depression, it is difficult and it can be intimidating there. So just kind of providing that support and kind of chiming in when you can clearly see that the parent is becoming a little distressed. So at that point, I would kind of step in and provide that support to her. I think another case that I have that recently, I have a parent whose son was just diagnosed with autism. And so just trying to find the resources for him. But I think she was expressing her frustrations because if you have a non-brown or Black person who is the one that's doing the evaluation, sometimes they're not as sensitive, or don't have that cultural awareness, or to be able to use the right vernacular where the parent can understand. If they're using these big words and the parents are coming out confused, they don't all the time and let them know um, what services are out there. So me, I'm like, okay, well, you possibly can get SSI, because a lot of times the parents are not able to work, because I know this particular person, her son may be 4. I'm sorry, my dog's playing in the background. He may be 4, so he's not yet school age. So trying to find those resources, daycare, find the right daycare for him. So it's been difficult for her to find childcare. I don't know if some of you all have experienced that, or before the child is probably.
Is that pandemic specific? When you talk about the child care, is that pandemic specific or generally in that jurisdiction?
Right, behaviors, those that can understand his behavior, because he may not be talking as much, and he may struggle with the social skills, or don't know how to properly engage with others. The vocabulary is oftentimes limited with those with the kids with that type of disability. I don't like to call it disability or challenge. It's difficult. So when you have so many kids, you have 25 kids in a daycare, 10, 15 kids in a daycare, and you have this one that needs a lot more attention. The other kids may not be getting what they need. So finding that right environment for her son. So she struggled with trying to find the right environment for him. And I think I was talking to Michelle also, for parents who don't rely on Medicaid or social services, it's hard to find the resources. It's a lot easier when it's Medicaid funded, because they're going to pay for those services, or it's a lot of services that are only Medicaid funded. Here, like intensive in-home, the ABA, you can get a lot of services, but for the working parent, it's limited, because they expect you to have the resources to be able to find the proper care for your child, when it's not that easy, especially if you're a single parent, or in a single parent household. You may make in the 6 figures or whatever, or a high income, but still it's still difficult, and we have the same challenges, or I'm sure they have the same challenges as those who are lower income. So I just think being able to advocate for the parents, that's something that always been near and dear to me, because I started out working in a group home setting where we had kids who had IEPs and had behavior problems, and I was constantly at the school. Like, I was a permanent fixture. They thought that I was a member of the school team or something, as much as I was at the school. So it's definitely important to have that support, especially for parents who may not be aware of. You guys are very informative. That's listening to Michelle talk about. I'm like, gee whiz, I've never heard of this. I've never heard of that. You guys have really done a great job in your due diligence for getting the resources that you need. And I think that's
Thank you so much. Namaste. But
definitely.
Yeah, you mentioned about the 3 things that stood out to me when we talk about like the power of the collective, because conversations that have come up are related to employment security. That has come up so many times, and financial insecurity, because in one way or the other, you can't expect a family, no matter how much income they have, to be financially sound, because as we discussed, when you have private insurance, you wind up having to come out of your pocket for a lot of what you may, and it's in what you can have access to is limited to what the insurance provider is willing to consider in network, and the rest is your gamble. So you become so limited, and you do feel very restrained or constrained by those limitations. And so so you may have a financial insecurity on many different sides, right? Resource insecurity, right? Because I still contend that resources can be elusive in many jurisdictions, specifically the one I am in, which is the great potentially soon to be 51st state, the District of Columbia. I I have struggled to really get access to resources. Not now, since I found these friends. I don't think there's a rock I haven't turned over. If I need it, I know where I can find it between these other three ladies. But what I have, but the resource challenges, the resource, feeling insecure about the absence of resources. And we talked earlier about the limitations of some of the medical facilities that provide treatment, especially in this area where the waiting list can be 18 months long from the point in which you need an intake to the point in which you can really get a diagnosis. Whereas in the meantime, you have gone completely mentally ill because you just don't know what to do. Right.
Right.
And so we talked about that. So you had these resource insecurity, these challenges, and I kind of want to open it up to the floor to talk about like where Motherwork potentially in your mind comes in or can come in, and to be able to try to bridge, close, or intercede into those gaps where we have these insecurities in terms of, I know we all talk about mutual aid a lot in different contexts. And so, even if there is a mutual aid, Chioma, what's our other jam? Universal basic income. How do, all these things kind of feed right back into, the power of the collective, right? Like the power of the collective, right? So, anybody, Yumika said, yeah, it take way too long. Way too long. So thank you, Yumika, for validating my comments here. But we did all just talk about it, and we've experienced a myriad of things, and this is sad. But kind of going back to the theory of, where we look at in the power of the collective, right? Well, open the mic. Any of these things stand out with you? I know those are the things that stood out with me. I'd be curious to know where we think that, continuing to use the theories of Motherwork that have governed the how we parent our children in the Black and brown communities for generations. How does any of that sit with you in terms of where you think? Because I know it's been huge for me to have y'all, right? I can say that every chance I get. It's been huge for me, and I'm so much stronger. And so I do feel the power of the collective all the time. So I can't talk about it enough because I feel like I went through some type of experiment and I found the answer. But it's been there the whole time. Okay, so anyone want to go ahead and come off mute and sort of join in?
Isn't it weird, y'all? She always calls on us. Like, Michelle, come on. Like, you got to like call on us, ma'am. We're talkers and you could go for miles. So
well, I knew someone would come off mute.
Now I want to go. I was like,
that means you're it, LaJoy.
I know. I'm going to choose Yolanda. Like, Yolanda never goes first. Don't make faces. I am. I'm going to throw it back to you. You can throw it back to me, but you never go first. So you're going to go first. Mother. Whoa. Happy Mother's Day.
That was a nice segue.
Invoice her.
Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers, both here and afar. So the power of the collective motherhood has shown up in my life because of the very fact that resources are so elusive. And then also the quality of the resources may not be up to par to sustain the need of the families. At least that's been my experience. And also the experience of a lot of families that I connect with. So, I think that it's just the determination of linking up with another. You have a determination to make sure that your child has a certain outcome, or your children. Because we know we have families that have children with many different types of neurodivergence, right? I got to get used to these new terminologies. Every year it changes. You go from special needs to neurodivergent to I don't even know what it would be next year. But we found that, or at least I found, a lot of my resources necessarily haven't come from me connecting to school leaders or anything like that. It's just been me talking to other mothers. And just, first of all, having that security of knowing that somebody knows what you're going through, not because they read it, but because they're living it. And so you have that empathy imparted already. And then also everybody knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that has been through, gone through, is going through. And so that's just been a stepping stone that I've experienced. My son is 14 years old. And there are still so many things that I'm trying to anchor down for him, even as he gets closer to becoming a high school senior. It was seeing, as much as I would like to say I've been in this advocacy space. I still have not overturned a lot of the resources that would help my family directly. And so that's really where a lot of my drive comes from, and being imparted in this work because of that very fact that it's not something that I could just pull up and it's accessible to everybody. Like, it's almost like you got to find a goddamn treasure map around this piece to even figure out just one little piece of like empathy and care and sustainable care. Like, don't keep giving me Band-Aid care. I want sustainability, because that's going to keep me from going crazy, you know? Yeah, I when you said the employment security, right, that's a big thing, because a lot of times we don't have that kind of security as families helping to raise neurodivergent children, because we get the phone calls from the school telling us that they're in crisis, and we need to drop everything we're doing and come support them, even though we know that's illegal as hell. But we do it because we moms, and they play off of us being moms, and we care. So we go get our babies so they don't got to be harassed, and we don't got to continue to be harassed. So how the hell am I supposed to keep a job if I got to keep coming and doing your job? That's number one. Mm-hmm. And then you talk about financial stability, where I already mentioned, like, that goes hand in hand. If I can't keep a job, then how am I supposed to keep finances to make sure that my children have what they need? So I'm always going to be at your doorstep like this, but you hate it. Right. And you talk about me, and you talk about how I'm a beggar, I'm lazy, and I'm all of these negative things, but you're not giving me what I need to be sustainable. You know, it's a chain of reaction. If you're not catching the word of the night, it's like Pee Wee Herman, sustainability. You know, it's a thing. It's a thing. Every human wants it. Every human needs it. Maslow's hierarchy needs. Educate yourself, people. And I'm done. I'm gone.
Did you drop the mic?
You know, and I've said this a million times. Like, I don't know how many times I thought I was gonna have to resign. Like, I mean, as late as maybe last June, I went to my supervisor and said, I don't think I'm gonna this isn't sustainable. You know, none of this is, but that was in the pandemic situation. But prior to that, it was mostly because I just felt so insecure about working, because I was having to leave all the time. And on top of that, my daughter was in the sort of height of her lung conditions. And so I was in and out with her too. And if she needed to be hospitalized, the stents were longer and so unpredictable. And so I was like, I'm going to have to find some other way. I thought there have been multiple times I thought the best thing to do would just be unemployed, because I just was so much added stress to try to be worried about if I could stay employed, since I didn't employ myself at the time. Lessons though, lessons.
How do you guys practice self-care? What do you do for self-care? And how is your support system? And how important is that to you guys, your support system?
I bring you up here and spend the evening laughing until the sun comes up.
Yeah. The social sunken place.
The social sunken place. But you know, Sharita can't be bought that way though. See, I can just feed these ladies, and we hanging all night long. And I love it. But that comes up a lot. So who wants to go about self-care? Because that comes up a whole lot. We were getting ready to write a whole conclusion chapter on self-care in this particular network. I'll tell you that this whole thing right here is all a part of my self-care. One, because I feel supported. I can't stop laughing. And then even when we close for the night, I'm still going to be somewhere laughing. Because we're going to laugh in the background for about 15, 20 minutes or so. This is great. But it comes up a lot. So what do you guys, she asked about self-care. What's up? Evidently, we put on lipstick. That's
yeah, it's a work in progress for me. I mean, I think that self-care is not the easiest thing. I want to back up and maybe just even address the Motherwork. I feel that, hold on, I don't know if you guys can hear me. Somebody's trying to call me in the middle of this. You know, I feel that Motherwork has to be done collectively. And I really thank you, Michelle, for gifting me that book that really is grounded on that theory of Motherwork. And I forget, Danny, what's her last name?
McLean.
Danny McLean, really powerful book.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, so I think self-care has to kind of I don't want to make excuses for myself, right? In saying that I can only do self-care when I've set up an infrastructure where care is not just about the individual we. I think we have to, I mean, I'm saying that not as an excuse, but it is something that's really important to consider, in that I think that people think about self-care and it goes right back to the very individualistic, ultra-capitalistic way of thinking. There we go. We live for the we, right? For the we, right? We, the motherhood, we, the mothers, we. And so self-care kind of purports us back to the I. I need to take care of me. It's all about me. And then we're given permission to really not have a collective solution for things that I think require collective solutions for it to be practiced with integrity. I think I'm more inclined to self-respect than I am to self-care, because if I respect my boundaries, if I respect other people's boundaries, if I respect when I've pushed myself to the limit, and it shouldn't have to just get to that limiting place, but that it's an important consideration where I'm about the communal action. And I would feel much safer in a world where if I knew that I was taking a break because other mothers were there, people were loving my children like their own when I needed a moment to myself. I mean, so part of what the Medicaid benefit is in terms of families that have gone through all the abuse it takes to, in the District of Columbia, to get long-term support services for your children with special needs, baked in that process are respite hours, right? Where technically you should have a number of respite hours. But sometimes if you can't find the right provider, you have high needs kids, or even if you do have a provider and you just don't have trust, right? Trust is just not there. And I'm the kind of mother, like, if I just smell it, I'm a childhood rape survivor. And so it's really, really, really important. That's honestly like a really haunting feeling, is I never want to be in a situation where I'm explaining where my kids are traumatized because I took some time for myself. Right. And part of, just in full disclosure, part of how that happened in my childhood is that my parents were traveling a lot. Right? My parents were all over the world. They were doing work and they were married. Actually, I love my parents, and I think that marriage is a beautiful thing. But it's a cautionary tale for people who feel that they prioritize their marriage over their children, or they prioritize themselves and their man. And we know situations when you bring in other people into the family because you feel like you need help, and because you didn't vet, or you didn't know, there's not enough eyes on the child is actually in a situation that's really dangerous for them. We know that the rates of child abuse and child rape and molestations are really high, right? Like it's 1 in 4, 1 in 5, 1 in 4 for girls, 1 in 5 for boys, or something like that. Some really high ratio. And again, not trying to set up this paranoia thing, but I'm a systems thinker.
Yeah, you have some trust issues with the systems and with people because of your experiences, which is completely understandable. But I hear you going way to Z, and I can bring you back to A. Self-care can start with, once you get the kids to bed, reading a nice book, taking a hot shower, having you a glass of wine, watching your favorite show. It can be small things, not necessarily. I think you kind of touched on like the respite care. And I agree with you on that too. It has to be the right provider, but the self-care can be very small and very limited. And I always use the analogy like a saucer and a cup and a saucer. You want to give from your saucer and not your cup, because if you give so much of yourself, then there's nothing left for anybody else. So you have to refuel and find your ways to refuel so that you won't be giving, your fumes to people. You got some gas in you to give.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I receive that. But I think the problem from the systems level is that that's not resolved by my individual decisions alone. Like, I absolutely do need to prioritize and figure out the time within my day, what's within my control. But again, as a systems thinker and a systems actor, if the system is 100% dependent on my labor, my time, and everything, if it's only on me to make decisions for my family as a single mother, or even as a married woman, you still need to be thinking about your units alone. And that, I don't think the children benefit from, I think it's a conflict when we're thinking about a mothering. For women in general, and I guess it's kind of aligned to this, the women's movement, to say that we need to take care of ourselves. And I agree, absolutely need to take care of myself. But, that has to look still with prioritizing the children, right? Because the minute my eyes are away from those kids in the middle of a battlefield, right? Like, that self-care has to look as strategic as everything else that I do. Like, if I know that as an organizer, I need X, Y, and Z need to happen in my household and my family, then it's also my real responsibility is not taking time for myself, but in setting it up so that when I do take time for myself, that my children's needs are still being met. So as a mother, to what Yolanda is saying, there's that conflict. If I'm facing housing insecurity, don't have a job, don't have a resource, don't have anybody to cry to in a bad hour, what's self-care going to do for me? For real.
I'm thinking though, but one of the things I'm thinking though, having somebody, if you have someone to cry to, that is where the self-care begins too. For me. But my self-care starts in like the grocery store, right? I'm big on like my self-care. I don't leave the house for self-care. I bring all my self-care here. So it's in my my food and my wine, and the quality of my bourbon. And I don't mess around. And these are my ways, and my vitamins, my supplements, my exercise. I shared with Sharita my little program. I'm about to start harassing her the way I've been harassing everybody else about their circles. But
you still have to prioritize yourself.
That's self-care.
I mean, because I remember back in the day where like I was like, couldn't find a job. My daughter was born really early, right? So I wasn't able to keep a job. And so I just made the decision not to work, right? And so by not working, okay, bills still piled up, trying to get respite, you're trying to, again, navigate these systems. And I'm going to talk about that part later, like the policy aspect of it, because honestly, that's kind of where it starts. Proper representation, proper policy, proper programs, funding, implementation. Anywho, but my daughter actually changed who I am, right? And for a long time, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just all over the place, right? And so finally she got here and all I was doing was, all right, got to do this for Abria, got to do this for Abria, got to do this for Abria. And I just wasn't prioritizing myself, and I would completely burn out. It was just a complete burnout. And it was a burnout to the point of like a nervous breakdown because I was not prioritizing myself at all. And my mom literally had to sit me down and she had a conversation with me about, I was like, well, mommy, I'm like, I can't do this. I'm like, I can't do that. I'm like, she was like, stop focusing on what you can't do and focus on what you can. And so, but I was like, well, right now, all I can do is take care of Abria, go to school, and actually go to the gym. She was like, well, do that.
That's self-care, that gym.
She was like, go do that. And so I was like, okay. I was like, you know what? I was like, I ain't got nowhere to be. I was like, my rent is sky high. Unemployment ain't gonna cover the rent. So I might as well use that money to go to the gym. What else am I gonna do? The resources ain't working. Sorry, not sorry, resources. You know what I'm saying? And so I just started going to the gym. I started doing Zumba, started exercising, and it actually made me feel a lot better. And it actually gave me more energy to run around DC like a chicken with my head cut off. Because when I would get so irritated, I'm like, okay, where's respite? Is the nurse coming tonight? Okay, fine. The nurse is coming. I'll go to the gym. All right. Is my mom getting a break? Okay, fine. Is Mimi getting a break? Okay, fine. I just use what you have.
Right. That's just
and that's right. Just use what you have. And that's where the collective comes in, because there's some mothers and some parents who may not have that support system. And I think that's where we, the motherhood, comes in, because I think as we grow, I think we will be able to fill in the gap for a lot of parents to be able again, to cry, to rejuvenate, to talk it out. RJ, what are you showing us in the background? I see you. I'm sorry, I got distracted.
Depression and anxiety are real. Depression.
Oh, I was diagnosed with all of them, so I'm not.
Yeah, I was going to say I have a diagnosis of depression and anxiety, and it's very common, particularly with moms and kids with disabilities. It's hard to not.
Yeah.
I mean, and unfortunately, I feel like it comes with the territory, especially being a mother of color, because the system is already set up. No offense, the system is already set up to be traumatized against you.
Yeah, so I personally, my self-care looks like understanding the no is a complete sentence. I operate in it. I will shut it down real quick. I leave meetings that are trauma triggering, not always the best for business, but hey, it saves my life and my sanity. I enjoy going around a circle of friends that don't talk about none of the things that I advocate for. They just operate in life, and I love it because they don't care what I do, who I'm advocating with, and it's okay with me because I got plenty of other friends that stay in that world. I love rage rooms. If you don't know about it, it's a room where you can pay to break things up, like just tear it all up and then leave like it never happened. You know, that's the way nail shops, pedicures, doing my own hair, writing, painting, anything that don't got nothing to do with my trauma is my self-care.
Right.
Facts, and more facts.
Yep.
And you know, I like to dip to some quiet mountainous countryside type spots. But one of the things that, you know, Chioma, you said that resonated with me was how long it took me before I could step away.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, by this definition of self-care, I like to sharpen my spears and my knives and my weapons in my downtime.
I mean, that is
self-care. That's your self-care. That's what makes you happy. That's what brings you joy. It could be your 5-minute meditation.
Bring up your mic, Tarita.
You get up. Oh, I think I'm unmuted.
You are. You're just mic. You went lower. That's all.
Okay.
Because you were saying something good. I want to make sure we can hear it.
I was saying, like, anything is self-care. That 5-minute meditation as soon as you get up, the 5-minute meditation before you go to bed, the positive affirmation, the constant positive self-talk. I got this. I can do this. You know, I can do this. I got this. You go, girl. Just any kind of self-motivation that you could do. All of that is part of self-care. It doesn't always have to be something tangible or outside of the home, like some of the other ladies, you know, talked about that they do. So I think it's important because it's easy for us to get into that mommy guilt. But if we're not together and we don't have ourselves together, we are no good to our children. And we can project our own issues onto them, our depression, our anxiety. We can project that onto our children. So we have to be careful with that and make sure that we maintain ourselves. You know, the little things that make you happy, do it, you know? And I know we do have some trust issues with the system, but you guys have a circle here that you can trust. You know, you can be creative with it and to do it in groups of twos. These two go out while these two watch the kids, you know, if you guys can't do it all together. So little things to kind of support one another.
You see, this is what we're talking about, that space in which, like, once the system starts to work, and by system, it's not just the government that creates systems, we can create systems. I wish that the conversation around self-care was coupled with the process of creating that time for yourself and having that time be safe for the children as well. And again, I'm not using it as an excuse to not prioritize myself. I totally hear what you're saying, Yolanda, that even in struggle, like, you still have to have fun, right? At the same time, I am very cautious about the messaging around self-care, which promotes selfishness more than it promotes self-respect.
I promise you, self-care is not selfishness. And I have to explain this to so many people because they're saying, well, I don't want to be selfless. No, you putting yourself first is not being selfish. Selfish is you putting yourself first and not giving a damn about nobody else, nothing around you. It's all about your needs. You're not compromising. You're not bending. That's selfish. Putting yourself first will guarantee that you can be there for other people. Because if I don't have myself together, I can't be there for my kids. I can't be there for my family. I can't be there for my employees, my job, if I don't take this time to focus on myself. And it doesn't have to be long periods of time. It could be 10 minutes. It could be 10 minutes. And we have to not fall into that mommy guilt. We are still women. We are women first before we are mothers. So we have to take care of ourselves first. We are women first.
Yeah. Well, my baby sister, Asia, and her husband Fatine. I call my baby sister. She's my friend's baby sister. So she's all our baby sister. But they got a song, and she sings this beautiful song about I'm a woman first, and they have 6 children together. Kendrick, the family. So y'all know, and but the song, I'm a woman first. It resonates with me a lot because it acknowledges that as a mom, your womanness kind of could get lost in it, and it may not be because your man put you in a predicament. It just happens sometimes. We get so caught up. Look, I got the minivan. I had the big double stroller that I was able to pop out with one hand. And Sharita, me and my heels went to flats real quick. Yeah. And so it is what it is, and it happens. But that song I think about all the time, and it is sung with such like like true like understanding of like I need this woman in me to be acknowledged by me though. But it is hard, And I would when we had the Care Not Cops rally a few weeks ago, and LaJoy left her daughter with one of the few people that I would leave my children with, because in the beginning, not only did I have a son with, autism, ADHD issues, but my daughter had fragile lungs. And so more than likely, the issue wouldn't be with him, it would be her. And it would be like, will this person know the signs? Because at the time she didn't talk yet, she was learning to talk. And it was like, she can't tell you when her lungs are weakening. She can't tell you when she's grasping for air. And so you need to be able to lift the shirt. And what you do, LaJoy, look at the belly, right? You look at the belly. You gotta look at the belly. You look at the belly, you start, and you need to be able to trust that when you give that person that's keeping your kids, that, this is this is what you need to look for. If you hear this, if it looks like this, if you whatever. And I was so afraid that it would be too scary that I said no. And I had 2 people that I felt, my cousin Keisha, who her baby had asthma too. So I knew she knew, and her sister, her twin, and Tasha. And so they would be pretty much the only people that, and my other friend Maisha, they were the only people that I think, that I would be willing to, have come to the house and stay with the kids so that, we could go out for a longer period of time, go on a date, or I could go overnight. But I was petrified. And so when Tasha said she'd come over and watch, not just my kids, but our kids, right?
That was a blessing.
That LaJoy could leave Abria at someone's house and go and have care, because we all could trust this person. It made a huge difference. But it also makes a difference that you can actually have somebody who's willing, right? Because it's not an easy set of circumstances. And now you got a room full of neurodiverse babies, all doing their own thing. You got to be a special kind to be able to be like, yep, I hear you. And that the sound of this is harmony to me. So Tasha, she did it. So shout out.
She did it. She was like, RJ was doing RJ, Daisy was Daisy.
Everybody's doing their thing.
I didn't write it down. I was like, okay. I'm like, here's her spacer. I'm like, she also has seizures. So if you see this, look for this. And Tasha was like,
I got you.
I got you.
Well, they used to out here in the community. I don't know if they're still around. I even forget what they're actually called, but they existed solely to provide childcare for families in movement work. So like if you had a demonstration to go to, we had a meeting, you could contract them, and they had some kind, it was a mutual aid kind of thing where they had some funding where you could ask for their support and not necessarily pay them because they had some funding. But I think that fizzled out. I'm not sure. I hope I'm not. For those who may be listening and they know what I'm talking about, if it's still around, I think it was a great concept. And I would love to see, I'm all about, y'all know, like I'm about like mothers really setting up in participating in the market of care of our kids. And it would be wonderful to see, you know, a family leader, a mother, somebody really set up something like that in this era. You know, so, you know, consider this free advice, business advice.
Right.
There is that need, that we do need people who recognize that for us to be part of the social transformation. We were at OSSE for we were at the Office of the State Education Superintendent Office of Education, right? So the fact that we can develop a protest or a rally in front of their, you know, it's also indicative of what we're not getting. I think that, you know, self-care is, I'm really, you know, this is a hard conversation for me, because if there is an area of growth I need, it's probably creating a balance of thought there. But these are the, like, as I'm hearing y'all say it, that resistance wall is there. Going,
we hear it. I'm a therapist.
I hear y'all, but wait, don't fall asleep at the wheel, because these kids, don't start telling me about self-care when I'm in the middle of a battlefield. That's my inner voice, right? Like, as long as my kids are unsafe, I will be on guard. And yet,
absolutely.
What does that mean? I mean, do y'all feel that tension and that contradiction, right? Because it's very live and present. I mean, do you feel that energy where it's like, yes, care for yourself and tap into your feminine and be a woman and all of that? But these babies, their whole future.
How many kids do you have?
Everything I do and don't do.
How many kids do you
I take for myself has to still matter for them somehow. And I feel that the woman and the mother have different interests. That's my thought. The woman and the mother have different interests.
But I think Chioma just
keep going.
being
hold on. I'm gonna need her to just stretch that out just a little bit. We cannot leave that dangling participle there. So if you could pin that candidate law, if you can pin that, because I would like her to just bring that sentence out a little bit more when you say the needs of the woman and the needs of the mother are different or in conflict.
I mean, they're working on different levels of self-interest, right? And the challenge of being a Black woman who is a mother, and I'm not just a Black woman who happens to be a mother. I'm a Black mother who was born in a female body, and you know what I mean? I've gone through this whole thing about, like, the concept of woman is very strange to me, and the concept of woman is also linked to something very political, right? More than it is linked to something biological or physiological. Whereas mother is a very physiological concept that you do define politically, and defining it politically within in what I consider, my ancestors did not make a lot of provisions. And again, I'm not trying to say that ancestors are the only way that we think about things, because there's a reason we're innovative and the reason we're dynamic and human beings, we continue to grow. However, in saying that, I feel that there's a key reason why the ancestors did not unpack identity the way that we do today. And I feel that part and parcel of that is that when you go through phases of development, right? And no matter what, in those phases of development, even as a girl, if you're not being raised for your social responsibility, and again, I don't want to locate only girls. Like, girls can choose to not be mothers, and that should be okay, right? Girls and women can choose to not be mothers, and there should be a perfectly acceptable way to do that. But if you are a mother, right, then I feel kind of like 13 Corinthians says, you know, when I was a child, I walked like a child, I reasoned like a child, I did all the things a child did. And I can't bring that into my adulthood. And for a Black woman, for a woman, like, my deciding to show up in my being as what society says a woman is, and what is a woman. I have a question around. I'm not sure what a woman is, but I know what a mother is, concretely and clearly. And yes, my femininity is linked to my mothering, but it cannot become more important than my mothering, because I exist as a specific vehicle that is not just about disappearing me, but it's also about recognizing, like, would you want your president to go, well, I'm a man first? Nah, dude, you the president, homie. That means I need you to be awake at the wheel 24/7. And I know you graying out and all of that, but that's why we elected you. And the minute you slip, I'm going to call you out.
So you see mothering as a job?
Of course it's a job. It's the highest calling. It's the highest calling. There is no greater work than our mothering work. But that doesn't mean we have to suffer in it. How can we bring it together when we're talking about stuff? I cannot prioritize myself the way I would prioritize myself if I didn't have children.
Your responsibilities change when you become a mother. So tell me, what was it like before you had children? What did you identify with?
Well, I mean, so we could absolutely go there, but I will answer that. I'm not trying to deflect, but I'm absolutely saying clearly and concretely in the distinction between, like, I'm a woman and I have to breathe, I have to show up as a woman, and and here I am knowing that what's on my plate requires me to be on call 24/7, and if I'm going to be off call, I better have a process in place. A process, not a babysitter, not a friend, not grandma, right? Not any individual location that I can squeeze sustainably. Because I know personally, like I just shared with y'all, I know personally what happens when a woman is in conflict with her mothering. When a woman prioritizes. And again, no judgment. I love the women in my family. I mean, I learned mothering from that, my own mother, right? She's an amazing mother. But I am very clear that conflict, and mind you, I should just also locate myself as as a Nigerian, coming from Nigerian culture. Whereas Nigerian culture has you really thinking about, like, our colonial culture says that you're supposed to prioritize being a wife above all things, right? Like, you don't walk around, you don't see Nigerian women that aren't wives. I mean, except for Chioma, which, we can get into, right? But I'll make this really quick, where, like, there's in my mom's generation and in their time, right, they forgot all the indigenous intelligence about mothering. Right? Because they were in a world where their success as an individual woman, affirmed by the love they get from a man, hence a wife, seemed to be what gives them life. Whereas our ancestors, and I went into deep study about this, were like, if we're not putting the children there in the middle, then yes, there is that conflict. Then I have to choose. And when people are blanketly putting out self-care, they are creating that, they're putting something in the equation without framing it or giving it context for attention that is very real in a world that is quick to take our children away from us the minute we slip up. The minute we don't have that balance correct between the self and the group, the mother of the family and the woman, we would get that judgment first and harshest. Where were you when your kid did X? Why were you not there? I mean, mothers, we get a lot thrown at us in terms of what's wrong with society. That's not saying we take that pressure on. That's most importantly saying that even inside and outside of those patriarchal assertions about who we are to the family, if anything goes wrong, it's on us. It's to recognize, okay, if this is going to be on me, I need to be in the highest level of understanding, which is like, I need to be a priest almost, right? There's a priest, it's that level of responsibility. I don't know we've ever taken a time in the colonial mentality of thinking through our experience as Black women, what it means to be a mother. You are communicating with God from the minute that child touches your womb. Does it
but hold on. Yes. But also we have to talk about the mothers who may not have actually given birth, right? When we're talking about the physical aspect. And so maybe we need to have a conversation. One, what is mothering? Two, who are mothers? Because how many aunts are in maternal places, right? Who are caring? How many grandmothers are literally mothering? How many great-grandmother? I know a great-grandmother right now who is mothering, okay? We have cousins. There are older sisters that are in place of mothers, stepmothers, when we have bonus children, where we marry into families. So I think one, mothering is very broad. Two, when we talk about, I think it's a triangulation, right? Sorry, y'all, my research is coming out. Don't judge me, Michelle. I see you scratching your ass. But I want y'all to think of this as a triangle. Yes, I called you out. I think of this as a triangle, right? So you have yourself, you have mother, and then you have the intersectionality of both. And so in your triangle, in whoever you are, whoever is watching, you have got to figure out the balance between God himself and your physical triangle. Real talk. Okay. So I am LaJoy, right? I am Abria's mom. So I'm Miss Law, right? I am a Black woman. I am Abria's mom. I am LaJoy. All three are the same. So there's me, LaJoy, me, Abria's mom. Don't judge me, y'all. And then me as a Black woman, me as Abria's mom, and everything else, right? So it's a big triangle of balancing that out. And so you have to figure out what is your balance. And I'm sorry, not sorry. Fuck society right now. Who cares about society right now? Society has literally gone to hell in a handbag, COVID-19 and all. COVID-19 basically told you and your system and your government and everything else that your society ain't as good as it should be, because everything would still be in place if it was, or it wouldn't have been as bad. That's the first thing. Second of all, we have to figure out what is it that makes your triangle balanced for yourself. What does your self-care look like? What is your definition of mothering to your children? And to not let anyone say, well, you should be doing this. You should be. I wish a nigga would. I wish you would tell me what I should be doing with my child. I wish somebody would. If you're not my mama, I wish you would tell me what I need to be doing. You can't tell somebody what they need to be doing. And that's the problem with society. We keep telling people what they need to be doing instead of saying, how can I help you? How can I support you? What is working for you? What's not working for you? How about you ask me an actual question that is solution oriented instead of you criticizing me? So that's what I mean when I say F society. Like, F you. You can't even give me the basic resources to help me support this child that didn't ask to have a disability in the first place. Can you imagine? And then we all gave birth to these children. Okay, imagine the mothers who are now coming into this place where parents have died of COVID-19, y'all. There are children out there who are motherless, who are fatherless right now. They're with grandmothers, they're with relatives who are now stepping into this mother role. And they're like, what do we do? And can you imagine an older sibling who is older than 18 now coming into this motherly role, taking care of children with disabilities, who's trying to find herself just as a woman herself? Yeah. So when we talk about this thing, we gotta think about, we gotta talk about different angles here. Where are you in your triangle?
One of the things we gotta drop back on though is mixing by over-identifying self-care with things like nails, hair, spa, weekends away, pedicure, we have to get away from by having self-care be that, because I think that's where people start to feel like they don't do self-care, because everybody know you ain't supposed to see no polish on my toes and you ain't supposed to see no polish on my hands. And I will barely get a haircut. And I'm learning how to cut it in my kitchen. But because I don't get down like that. I do take breaks. Because I have learned to get to that point. Not only am I not I'm not a young woman. I am just not a young woman. And so I have to look at my life in a different way, because I can't, I don't have next year I'll be 50, and we talked about, hitting 50, you have lived well over half your life. And what you don't know is how many years you have after that. Mm-hmm. And so really based on life expectancy in the United States, right? And we are Black women. And so we, what I'm always reminded of by my doctor is, you got to prioritize yourself. Because if you don't, then you won't be here for them. And this was in context to me having high blood pressure. And I would constantly put off being treated for it because I had changed medicines and I struggled with keeping balance. But I was so busy running my son to Children's, running my son to Krieger, running my son to this developmental pediatrician or this therapy, or, I was so busy doing that. And then in between that, running my daughter back and forth up to the respiratory therapy unit at Children's. And so between, I could never get to myself until I was about to have a stroke. And I went in to her, and at which point, she really gave that talk to me. And so I realized that I got to get myself together, right? But my priority of self-care, comes with something as simple as just remembering to take my medicine every day and drinking water. Mm-hmm. Right. And taking some time for exercise, which I have been able to find 30 minutes right here in the house. And without trying to worry about if I have enough space or whatever, because I knew that the only way for me to modify my main focus of self-care would be to increase endorphins and punches of dopamine. Right. And I knew the only way to really boost those endorphins was to get in the gym. And I knew that once you flip those endorphins, you start to change the other hormonal balances, with your serotonin and stuff like that. I'm a proponent of meds. I'm a proponent of, other more herbal medications as well, because I think that meds help with balance when understood appropriate dosages. But and there's a lot of information that connect the benefits of cannabis in the use of women specifically. And so I think that, there's a lot to be valued in looking at these things. But I found that, my self-care had to come with just trying to be alive. And it wasn't, I'm just not the pedicure, manicure, massage type. That's not my thing. But I realized that if I couldn't be alive, then it wouldn't matter how hard I worked. It wouldn't matter what my children become entitled to by trust in my will. It won't make a difference if I'm not here. And ideally, the money that's in their trust today ain't gonna be as much when it's time, because I'm gonna burn it by then, right? And so so that's why I had to look at my own self-care, but it came in the form of, like I said, food, diet, exercise, things that would give me the life I need. But the big trigger for me that really got me to realize that, and I've been called selfish too for putting those things first, but what I found was one day I wanted to add to my son's medications. I looked for pharmaceutical intervention to find a way to calm him down because I was stressed. Right. So I looked to find a way to chill give my son a downer because I was just that stressed. I can confess that. And I called, and they were more than happy to write a prescription. And I was more than happy to take it and get 90 days worth. And I set up all my follow-on appointments. And then something occurred, and I said, I want to give my son, and it may have been some of the initial conversation about the vax and some different things that got me to thinking, like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what's going to do. I can't determine how it's going to make him feel. And he could barely still speak for himself because at the time he's 7 years old, and I'm trying to figure out how I can slow him down. When on the flip side, it wasn't my son I needed to slow down. It was mother, right? It was mother. At the end of the day, it was mother. It wasn't me that needed, it wasn't him. It was me. I needed to pull myself together so that I can focus, because the moment I'm saying to myself, I would like to give my son some unknown pharmaceuticals at the age of 7 that he don't need, because his frontal cortex is still developing, right? I'm 48 years old, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, I need him to chill so I can chill. And so that is perfectly legal, but it's the same concept of saying, what happens when you leave your child in an unattended care? It's the same thing. And so that was when I was just like, I got to draw back, and I had to decide on what I needed first so that I would not find myself in the stressful boxes, but it didn't come in the form of anything that, even aligns with femininity. I chose self-care pieces that would align with my mental clarity and capacity, because I can't die. And so, because that's not an option. So I had to create a preservation tactic. And so that was where my brand is self-care. But I want to kind of pull away from, proselytizing, because I see it too, Chioma, through all the images and such. It's like, this is me, and I admit, I get my fair share of look who momcation, right? Because I'm a big fan of the momcation. I believe in the momcation. But I know that finding somebody to cover your kids in a momcation isn't easy. But I got a whole formula for the momcation if you want to know what it is. But I believe in it. But they don't need to be frequent at all. Just enough to bolster up those nuts. But I feel like we do have to get that image out, because I do think that people either feel like self-care is not for them, so they may even go further in depression because they can't go get these other things, or they don't even know what alternatives there are to self-care. So I do think that we have to sort of remove that spa day stigma. Champagne and brunching with the ladies down on the water, all in beautiful dresses on the most perfect sunny day with fully beat faces and cute high heel shoes that nobody can walk in. I get it. That's that mother, not mother.
Yeah, right.
And we have standards of beauty and standards of like women.
I know what you was talking about.
Women comes with a lot of stuff that I've rejected even as a girl. Like, I've never, like you, Michelle, I just never fit into, I grew up with brothers. I grew up very tomboyish. I grew up ready to just really get into any idea, any thought. And yeah, like very aggressive in a certain way, quiet, but you never mess with me when it comes, like, if I have an idea, a cause, or something, that was childhood that developed in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I hear you. This is a tough conversation. I just want to say this is.
It is a tough conversation.
It is very hard.
If you remember, Chioma, when we were training last year, you might not recall, but self-care came up, and I said I don't have one. I said when we met in July for the first time under the AJE context, we talked about self-care, and I said I don't have one. And I said, well, I guess I buy good liquor. My bourbon is solid, And in my mind, I said, I guess if I'm invested in some good quality bourbon, don't come try to drink my good quality bourbon. But I keep that for myself. But if I'm doing that, I guess that's self-care, But I didn't think that I had any self-care at all until I realized that keeping myself alive was the greatest self-care that I had.
And you hit the nail on the head, Michelle. And that's why I was, trying to explain to her that she was going from A to Z. Self-care could be when you wake up in the morning. You could wake up before the kids wake up and have that time to yourself. That 10 minutes that you just meditate, you just pray. Whatever you do, take an extra long shower. All of that stuff is parts of self-care. Taking care of you, things that you can do to rejuvenate yourself. Because, like Michelle said, you don't want to go deeper into depression and anxiety. I hear you, and you have some very strong points, But self-care, I know you just got to squeeze it in there and figure out what works for you. That makes you feel like you're doing something for yourself. You taking care of your physical health is part of self-care.
Yeah, definitely. Who likes to laugh? I kind of have recently discovered that laughing. Like I used to love to get and just laugh. But I recently was talking about I don't know what, and I started laughing so hard that I had to lay on the floor. Because I was in pain. I was laughing so hard. And I thought the next day I was still tickled, like the sort of dopamine or whatever that comes from that type of constant laughter was still there, resonating with me. And I was laughing so hard. And I feel like that one piece of laughter just led to lots and lots and lots more laughter. And I started to think like, wow, that is really medicinal. And so I've tried to laugh a lot more, like to like face hurt laugh. And it really like is euphoric. Is it just me? Am I too hippie-ish? Am I too granola right now? Am I too much the granola mom?
I think I'm laughing because I knew why you were laughing. And so
and this thing right here, a lot of joy. You know, a lot. He is really he's.
Oh
like
no. My kids all potty trained. Mm-mm.
Yeah, like right. He is a kid, but it's just bringing that joy, Michelle, can I ask you to read some of the comments? It's been a lot of comments scrolling through.
Yeah. Let me share. I know Brittany talked about self-care being a trigger word for her, that she was working on it, trying to redefine it for herself. And probably, I don't know, Brittany, in your comment, if you're saying from the same context that it's just misused and has created this image that a lot of people feel like they can't sustain. Oh, I see Faye. Hey Faye. Hey mother. And we have LaJoy said laughter is the best medicine. Thank you so much. And Brittany said that some mothers never were taught self-care, which could be a historical context in the fabric of our community, right? And
we're taught that it's a bad thing. Like we're taught that it's self-care is a negative thing. It's not negative.
Or if you were just taught, if you weren't taught it at all, like what she's saying is that you're not necessarily, she's not saying that you're taught it's a bad thing. She's saying that there are some communities whereby you wouldn't have been taught that at all, because what you would have most likely been taught is to work, and then you pass those ethics down. So you have to. So what she's saying is that if your mom didn't, self-care, you probably not gonna self-care either. Which is scary because my small person self-cares with me, and I might be setting up a bad situation here. I got to rethink this. But I let my mini tag along on my self-care because she's a lot of fun. And so let's see, what else do we have here? And Brittany concurred that, this is a nonstop job when we're talking about motherhood, mother being work, and a lot of the universal basic income theory for mothers is in the category of motherhood is that, mothering is a job that is,
never ending.
Brittany says she's actually a stay-home mom, and she can confirm it is a whole job. Ain't it? Oh, and to Lisa, I appreciate this right here where you said that mother, yes, the highest calling, because that was our, last month was, mother is the high title, like it is the high title, right up there with mother, but and so it is the high title, unpaid labor. So I'll tell y'all what I was thinking about when we were talking about Mother's Day, right? And I personally, Mother's Day, I haven't liked ever. Probably maybe the first one was exciting, but after that, I'm just like, motherhood is a real sick joke. And shouldn't a celebratory day just makes me angry, right? And so this particular year, as I thought about it, people kept saying, "What are you gonna do for Mother's Day?" And I was just like, ugh. And I realized, like, I just hate it because it reminds me of it's been hard, right? It reminds me how hard it's been. It reminds me how much I've cried. It reminds me how much depression I've had to battle. It reminds me of the fights and the tears and every traumatic experience. It reminds me of all that. But what I thought about this year was that I'm going to spend it with my mom, because now that I really reflect on it, like if it's all that for me, right, which means it probably was all that and some for her at this point in her life, for real, because she'd have been through my 20s and all that, right? And so I said, I need to celebrate the fact that she still likes me. After all this, and my mother still likes me. I mean, she loved me because she's my mama, but she actually likes me. She wants to have a cup of coffee with me or a little glass of wine with me. My mother likes me after all these years. And so I said, now that is something worth celebrating. But 1 and 2 can stay right on home in the back of the kitchen. And I'll go over my mom's house and we'll have some coffee together so we can actually, I appreciate you, Candace Mason Parrish, for actually still being my friend. Now that I can imagine what it may have been like. And so, Faith said, thank you, Dr. Faith Gibson Huffman, for joining us on here. That mothering has a lot of unexpected surprises. We are not taught to cope with the bumps and the trials. And so, that's really, and I think some of that comes from, if you look at like some of the Black psychology and parenthood, and they talk a lot about, how Black families, how they raise their children in certain like cadence of discipline to deal with the racial challenges of the time. And I do want to show y'all on my self-care. I've been buying art, and so this is my latest.
Yes, Tupac.
And this is my second piece of art with Tupac in it. I'm kind of like quietly a Tupac fan. So my brand of self-care these days includes investing in others, but I'm surrounding myself with beautiful things that inspire me. So I'm running out of wall space though. But and so she said it's we have to celebrate our small victories because mothering isn't easy. So my small victory is finding a place to hang this little painting tonight. All right, you said what, Chioma?
I said,
oh, ain't he cute?
Yes.
Ain't he?
Little Jedi. If you ever need to just release some of those pieces, I got some wall space over here. We can hang him up.
I'm just gonna keep collecting. I got 2 in the queue, one from Prudence Bonds and one from Heather Levy. So I gotta make good on my invoices.
If you ever decide to sell, I mean, I'm sure we have an audience of buyers. So how about that?
Yeah, hey, audience of buyers who love art. We got a lot of artists. Someone suggested I actually organize an art show soon. I think that would be fun. I think it would be fun to see what kind of art is coming out. Like, what is the post-COVID art? What is the post-COVID art?
That would be interesting.
And Yolanda
from the women, with the women
Are we post-COVID?
I know. No, I don't. But I think that we're at a point where people may have hit modes of clarity and understanding of new ideas, new adventures, new belief systems. And so from those theories, I think you may find some good pieces of art when people begin to reflect on what they experience and what they might feel like they've gotten through. Especially people that have, gotten to a place where they feel much more comfortable or safe, or the numbers are lower in their community, or if they've been vaccinated, or whatever it is that gives them some sense of comfort. I think you might find that people are ready to reflect artistically on what they've learned. But it's not. We're not post-COVID. Let's see.
Not
The whole thing in Octavia Butler's Parables begins in 2024. So you guys got about 3 years before we make the next shift.
Yeah, and then you talk about self-care, and the whole thing's about to go kaput, right?
I'm trying to get it done now. You see what I'm doing? You see how I'm rolling these days because it's. I read the parables. I know what's coming.
Sometimes we're offbeat, right? Like, this is the reason why I don't identify with feminism, is that sometimes I feel it's in conflict with what's actually occurring in the reality of a gendered experience. If we are to say we have a shared experience as people of the same gender and race, as Black women particularly, right?
Black women weren't included in feminism for real, though. I mean, if we look at real women studies, like feminism.
But we have Black feminism, right? As a school of thought that is, I think, a key vehicle in which the self-care campaign and thought comes out of, in that we deserve it. We deserve that space. But kind of similar to, like, we kind of talked about it earlier, and I hate to bring it in here, when Patrice Colors buys 5 houses and talks about, I'm an activist, but I got to take care of me and mine first. Isn't that, how far does that mentality go? How far does that go? And when do you start to feel like, did we poll the children? Do they think mothers should be prioritizing self-care above everything else? I don't know. I don't know if that's what the babies need from us. But I know that we do need balance. I know we do need care. I know that we do need love and joy and happiness. And I want that for myself and for all of my sisters and mothers, all of it. But it has to look something systemically like that make it make sense for Chioma, because otherwise I'm gonna do what my dad taught me, which is that you are the most vulnerable when you're in retreat. So
I'm not waiting for the system to give me self-care. Well, self-care is self-care.
Well, if we accept that we're a battle, right, and you don't plan for your retreats, then that means somebody's
laughing at me
when you are retreating. That means the minute your eye is off the wheel,
it ain't off the wheels.
Go down.
I'm a fan of the art of war. I'm a battle strategy person.
I was raised that way.
The first battle that we need to conquer, folks, is in the mind.
Okay.
And on that note,
Agreed.
Yeah, agreed.
Y'all are goofy. I mean, that's what I'm saying. So right now we're working, but this is care. I mean, it's care in a way that's also, I feel like the mindset we bring to an activity, which is why I like wellness as a practice, like the mindset I bring to it promotes internal wellness, internal balance. And I'm not saying I don't have the answers. I am a very imbalanced person off the break, not professing to know what the actual answers are here, but recognizing that the conversation is not a new conversation. And I feel it is certainly not nuanced enough for me to go, yep, that's it. That's the answer right there. Self-care. I got to do that. Right. I'm struggle with it because it isn't. Always Michelle.
It's not the answer. It's a small piece. It's an essential piece. It's not the answer be all, because like you said, you can't be just focusing on yourself and forget about everything else. That's not self-care. But it is essential. It's essential in order for you to be able to function daily. Your daily functioning is important, and it starts with you, because you can't be there for your kids or nobody else if you're not there for yourself. If your mental is not in order, your emotional, your spiritual, your physical, everything that has to be in order for you to begin to take care of anybody. So self-care is essential. It's not an option. It's how you choose to provide that self-care to yourself. That's the option that you have. But self-care in itself is essential. Figure out, it could be, take 5 minutes to yourself one day. And you probably already are practicing self-care, but like I think LaJoy said, it's a negative connotation that's put on self-care because people equate it with being selfish when it's two totally different things. So you're probably already practicing some sense of self-care, but it's just not a definition behind it.
We got one more question coming in from the chat box, and it's from Faith Gibson Hubbard, and I thought this was timely to what we just talked about, which was what is balance. And so let's put that out there as our last topic is, what exactly is balance. I don't know if I'm ever going to know that, because I can't even stay in a yoga pose. But I pose that because it does feel like over time, and even in the mix of this conversation, we've agreed like, hey, really striking a balance that feels like balance is not easy, right?
Well, first you got to figure out, what are you balancing? What is there to balance? What's in my life that I have to put in equally? And I don't think your life will ever be balanced, because at some point you may give to something, or something in your life may require more than this other thing at this particular time. So in that case, there is balance, because I'm putting the energy where it needs to be at that time. So that's balance.
So you're saying balance shifts?
Absolutely. It's what needs to be balanced at that point. And at that time, if you figure out what's in my life, okay, I got work, I got kids, I might be in school, I might have this Motherwork thing that you guys are doing, I might be in a sorority, I might be in other groups, I have my church obligations, everything is not going to require the same equal amount of time. So your balance is what you make. And then when you start to feel overwhelmed and stressed and anxious, then you know that things are not balanced. You're not putting the right energy into what it needs to be put into. If home is thriving, but you're slacking at work, then you got to find a way to balance that. If work is on point, but things are falling apart at home, then how are you going to balance that? Where do you need to shift the energy?
And all of this is really associated with priorities too.
Exactly. Exactly. What do you need to balance? Figuring out what you need to balance.
And so that kind of all goes back to Chioma's point about it's what them kids need. So all my priorities are going to start coming down to what them kids need, which is it might mean me to put more energy at work.
Right. But if I'm putting the energy in my kids and I know that they're okay, but then I'm falling apart, then I got to shift the energy. Once I know my kids are good, then I got to shift the energy to put into myself. Not totally neglecting the kids, but they straight. So now I got to put myself back in order. It's almost like you get the kids ready for school. You got the kids ready for school. They good to go. Now let me go get myself ready for work. And then we can all go out because I know they're straight.
But now I will put this, but that's neurotypical life. That's ableist, right? Because on many levels, like we don't actually have that quite capacity 100%. Is not all of us are actually able to say my kid's good, let me go get dressed. Some of us now, in some cases, you may have to figure out, okay, you got to get up at 3 a.m. and get dressed, or you got to go to bed with your clothes on or whatever in order to make sure you even have something on to get them out the door. But, not all of us have that capacity. And so, that's added stress even because those basic daily chores get to be where we put ourselves extremely last. I don't know how many times I stood up and ate the last of the food. The last of it, whatever was the scrapings in the pot. Why they just because I needed them to, do their thing. Or, how many times I didn't, do something. Or like the fact that my bedroom furniture looks like donated dorm furniture because I've never been able to prioritize. Yeah, I said it. Who's gonna judge me out there?
So
because I have not been able to prioritize mother's,
I'm like, so bad. Come through, mother.
That's not important. That's not critical. That's not crucial right now. That's something that I get to when I can get to it.
But my daughter got a velvet sofa, couch bed, a velvet wingback day bed in her room.
Man.
But does she sleep peacefully?
Yeah, because she sleep with me.
Balance, we may not ever find balance because things change, situations change, especially in this day and age. How many of us thought we were getting it together, had our social life going, our finances straight, and then boom, COVID hit. So we back to this. So you just never know. You just kind of have to go with the flow. And I figure, in my opinion, if you're stressed, overwhelmed, got anxiety, then you have to figure out what can I do differently. When you talking about kids and being a parent to special needs kids, we gonna always be stressed. I was talking to a friend today. I was like, shoot, my son was colic, and when I had to go to work, I have a set of twins, and one was colic. And I went to work, did my work, pick him up from the babysitter. He cried from 5 to 7 every day, and so did I. It was nothing that I could do to soothe him, but he cried and I cried. That what could I do until that phase moved on, until he wasn't colic anymore, and then it came another issue that I had to deal with. And my son was the same way. Always getting called from. I was just fortunate to work at a job that I could leave. But he got in trouble all the time, and then come to find out, I found out till he was like in the 6th grade, that he was like ADHD because everybody was telling me he was just bad. He just don't listen. He this, he that, he this, he that. But then, okay, he's ADHD, and this is why he's having his behaviors. And I can pinpoint the exact time it started when he was about 4 years old in pre-K, and that's when he started having those problems. But yeah, it's stressful. So trust me, I'm not sitting here talking like I don't know. I've been through, and I can tell you, it's a rainbow on the other side.
Come through, Rainbow.
Come through.
Yes, it's a rainbow on the other side.
There's this little thing going around Facebook that people are copying and pasting where they say, I don't understand people that saying that they only gonna raise their kids to 18. And every chance I get, and they this long list of what they want their kids to do when they old, coming in for dinner and all this kind of stuff, right? Every chance I get, I comment on the thread if I see it for the first time, and I say, that's all I got is 18. That's all I can commit to today if I can get to 18, I will be, that be when I even start looking for rainbows, because once I hit 18, it's gonna be all net from there. If I can get that far, amen. Somebody knows what I'm saying. Anyway, those are my last words. Last words, Yolanda Corbett.
You got called out.
She got to have a last word.
Okay, well, my last word is always going to be placed in organization, right? We've had these conversations, and we are transparent so that other people feel comfortable being transparent. We have come collectively as a example of what motherhood and mothering and mother work can look like. So it's not because we are, just out here gluttons for punishment, or we are like just want the spotlight, like if you hear us in most of our like candid conversations, we're a lot of introverted people on this thing. You wouldn't know about personalities, but we do what we got to do in order for our children to have what they need, right? So here's my tagline. If you could, would you please like, share, subscribe? We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, and we're on Facebook. Listen, I say this all the time. We love that you love us, and we are trying to do better by making sure that we build up our content and things like that. So when you get on our page and you don't see much, don't judge us. Add to it. Come to our DMs. Let us know what you can add to the We the Motherhood, because We the Motherhood is not just the four of us. We just happen to be at the forefront. That's it. So I would like to bid everybody a happy, happy, happy Mother's Day. Even if you have not birthed a child, if you care past your own doorstep, then that is a form of mothering. And so I thank you for that. My children thank you for that, because it takes a village, right, ladies, to raise a child. And Lord knows we need that village. So please stand firm in your truth. Don't forget that your testimony is power. We need for people to know when things are working, but more importantly, we need them to know when it's not working. So if you would just join us, please, in our fight so that all of our children can have what they need. It'd be greatly appreciated. And then maybe we can get some self-care in. All right.
Dr. Oru.
Yes, y'all. Who got the beat? It's the tribe, y'all. Five, y'all. Well, I'm thinking a lot of things, and I really appreciate this conversation because, it's timely, right? In the spirit of really, I do recognize the need to love on myself, and the need to love, and that is an extension of the love that is offered to my family, and then all the other families that we are all committed to bringing along the ride of uplift with us, right? I think that, however, I think I stand firm in that, in that I would want more expansive. I'm not just going to blanketly promote self-care anymore, right? And I believe that I have been undercritical of the self-care movement, especially when I know that wellness is a practice, and it's not just about a feeling of goodness. It's also recognizing, everything and accepting everything that's occurring in my being non-judgmentally. And that practice is a discipline that requires commitment. And that is work, always. And then I hope that self-care doesn't become, or it doesn't continue to be, this conversation we have outside of our daily challenges and what we do to get free and create balance. And I do understand that balance is a very nebulous term. It's very, you can cut it many different ways. And can it actually be an aspiration we achieve? I don't know. I'm not a Zen master. I am not. My name is Chi, and Chi means energy, and Chi means your God self and all of that. And I love my name because it is a holy name. Chi and Om and Ah, all the sacred sounds are in it. However, I cannot profess to be anybody's sage. I believe in the power of femininity. I believe in the power of love. And I think the highest articulation of that is in my mother work, and is in, lifting up the mother work of others. And if I can find a way to emanate love from the inside out from there, then hey, that's all I can hope for in this lifetime. Maybe the next one, I'm in a better position. But in this one, we battle ready all day, every day. Believe that. Okay? That's it. That's all I got for y'all today.
Oh yeah, Yolanda forgot to she said she don't know what a like will do, but she knows what a share will do. And so if you would like to share and support in the connectivity of this network, we are, she said, your share will ensure that someone else will be connected to a supportive network.
Yes.
And so can I just add one last thing? That we concept of mother work, I'm all about that. Show me the self-care where we recreate spaces like the Motherhood for every mother to have a network. Like her mother needs sisters like y'all in their lives, needs all of us in their lives in order to feel safe and ready to really prioritize that love and that respect for yourself. So
the historical context in that book, they talk about, like, you know, we've changed a lot, right, as a community. And so communities were much more close-knit at the time in which the premises of mother work were, you know, discovered in many of the reference pieces in Danny's book. But what's so interesting is that, you know, the question I guess we can unpack at another time is, you know, do those type of communities even exist anymore? Like, is it that we're too spread out and we don't know our neighbors? But, you know, there were whole communities of women that collectively parented. And these things about needing to find services or providers to support your children, you would not need that in these communities, because these communities were, you know, rooted in that sort of tribal support, but that was necessary. And so as we assimilate more and move more into, you know, let's say the self-reliance mode, if you will, you know, are we losing that the weight of that fabric? Is it thinning out and disappearing, you know, or are we renaissancing those days right now? You know, okay, we'll unpack another time. All right, future baby mother, Dr. LaJoy Johnson Law.
I love it.
You're my baby. She's my baby mother, which means she's my baby girl mother. She could be my daughter. People don't know that, but so she's my baby mother.
Because you look
all
amazing.
Right, little mother. Last words, little mother.
Last words. Balance looks different for everybody. Self-care looks different for everybody. Like, my child is crawling around, so she may pop up. Why are you trying to take my phone? Just ask if you want the phone. Mommy, can I see the phone, please? We're parenting in real time. Just ask. Mommy, can I see the phone, please? Everyone can hear you. Mommy, can I see the phone, please? So I can end this broadcast.
You see the phone?
Oh, yes, you may. Thank you for asking so nicely. You are appreciated. See that? We parent in real time. Okay. And guess what? Part of self-care sometimes is literally sitting in the car by myself. Literally. Okay. The other part of my self-care is I'm trying to read more. So I want to give Michelle, if it's okay, I got to give one of the mothers a shout out. Her name is Yumika Thompson, you guys. I got my book in the mail. So can someone please tag her? It's called More Than Just Poetry, Insight for Overcoming Obstacles. I love this beautiful picture. Just I think of mothering, of womanhood, Black women. It's such a beautiful picture. So if you're looking to get up on some reading, I just wanted to give her a shout out. I didn't want her to think that I forgot about her, so I thought I'd give her a special shout out. My daughter doesn't have my phone. I can't see y'all, but love you guys. We're a collective, which means it's not just the 5 of us on here. It's all of us. It's going to take everyone to really change the system. It's going to change ourselves, right? And to be a support to each other. So we love you. And y'all know how we end. Y'all ready? Everybody, hands up. Because we are the Motherhood. And we'll see you in June. We're turning 1.
1 in June. 1 in June. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are
and June
out.
is the 1-year anniversary, right? It's in. Oh, look at this.